Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chilihead community by the chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Up tonight, we have an amazing episode on deck. We have the return of Rich Blood, aka Pepper Guru. So, episode 171 starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, and or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. Up tonight, we have the return of Rich Blood, aka Pepper Guru. We're going to be discussing everything that he's accomplished in 2025 and the pathway forward in 2026, diving into a little bit that's discussing around seed planning, the idea of picking out the exact growing plot, and being able to best utilize that space, plus much more. So jump on in, have a lot of fun with this conversation. If you have questions, as always, go ahead and fire those off down below. Also, if you're on a platform that allows for a 5-star review for the podcast, go ahead, leave a review for the podcast. That helps us get in front of the algorithm and get in front of more like-minded chiliheads and individuals that are curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. Let's go ahead and jump on into tonight's discussion. Hey, Rich, how's it going?
What's up,
man?
How we doing, dude?
Doing great. Glad to have you here. Once again, as I'm sure you're feeling it as well, this lovely cold weather hitting us again.
Dude, it's crazy. I've been chopping wood and keeping the fireplace going.
Yeah, well, it's times like this I kind of wish I had a wood. So the only wood burning anything fireplace-wise is an outside only with no actual enclosure. So it's kind of useless right now for me.
You got a fireplace?
Yeah, we have gas inside, and I love the fact that I can just walk over there and flick a switch and it lights up. But
Yeah.
the downside to that is also it's not like that. It's constantly burning that resource instead of it being like a free resource that I could just go grab and bring inside. So
what do you got, like those faux ceramic logs in there that kind of heat up as the gas burns on it?
Yeah. And at first I thought great little luxury, probably won't ever use it, so on and so forth. But that 2021 storm where it absolutely just shut down the power grid in Texas, that was the saving grace, because that thing never went off and it never needed any, kind of electricity to kick itself back on. So
yeah, that's when it shines right there, is in the fact that you don't really have to go out and chop wood. That kind of helps too.
yeah. There's the trade-offs, but okay, all right. Well, hey,
I don't know how much fireplace you've got there, but they got these inserts and caps, and you can utilize the venting in that thing and put you a little, steel wood burning stove out on the front of the fireplace. That way, like the radiation just heats up your entire room, But it's also another option.
That is pretty interesting.
Utilize that vent going up.
Yeah. Well, and that's the pretty interesting thing too about it, as you're saying that, because we're, caught one of your posts, and obviously we were talking about that a little bit, but the idea of like renovations, just kind of personalizing more the home, a little bit here, a little bit there. That kind of has kicked off in the household. So because of that, that's actually one of the areas we were looking at, is like the fireplace, because it has come in clutch so many times for us. We're like, okay, we like it, but want to, we're always around here, definitely in these colder days in the mornings, we're like, kick on the fire real quick, heat up, get ready, get dressed, get all things going, and move on out for the day. So that's definitely on the list of things to evaluate, is the fireplace here soon, as far as like what we're going to do. Just the overall looks, the aesthetics, I definitely know we're going to change up a little bit. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, that piece that you sent me, that furniture with that like sage, that slate sage color, I love that color.
Yeah. We took quite a few different samples, very similar to, it seems like, what you're doing. We ended up scouring various different stores, different paint companies, etc., trying to find the right color that works. And then once we had it narrowed down to the paper, it was like, all right, we got to get 2 samples, right? And then we just
Mm-hmm.
brought up, painted it on something that wasn't going to be stressed about one way or another what it looked like, and just carried it around. Natural
Yeah.
light, house lighting, so on and so forth, trying to find out what color was going to be the nice, like, main focal and accent, I guess, if you will.
Yep.
So
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah, it's a long process, but we're happy with it.
Yeah.
Things are looking up. It's our first home purchase, so just all the ideas in your head, it's like you can't afford them all, so you just kind of have to chop at it a piece by piece.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that is it. You get that, from the car side of things, you kind of get that same little bug, right? You end up getting a car that you're like, all right, cool. I want to make this mine. There's this, hey, this thing looks super sweet. I'll swap that out, this out. It's the next thing you know, you've just snowballed into this massive project, and you're like, okay, can't do that. Same thing happens
Yeah.
with the home. So much so that, yeah, it's like you have to kind of pump the brakes and then evaluate, like, do I want to do this once, or do I want to do this, multiple times? So
Yeah, and with how crazy everything's priced nowadays, I built the deck with my bare hands, still costs 5K. It's just crazy, you
yep,
know.
yep,
It's materials are just out of this world right now, so
yeah, no,
it's a slow process.
absolutely, yeah. It's the same thing happened with the back fence. We got quotes for the fence, and it was like, no, we're just wanting to match what we had already done with the side, and like quotes were just for one back section was costing more than both the sides and the front were done altogether.
Yeah, contractors are really, really proud of their work nowadays. But listen, being a landscape contractor, it's like I don't know many businesses that operate at less than 50% profit margin. And if they do, they're probably not doing that great. So it's like
Hmm.
the cost of the material itself is still pretty high. So when you're throwing $10,000 quotes at people, they're like, oh my God. But it's like, dude, stuff costs.
Yeah, yeah. Which led me to building it myself. But I mean, yeah, it's the
There you
same true to what you're saying. You're paying like, at least a quarter of the price, anyways, regardless, one way or another.
Yep.
And sometimes you can find better, sometimes you can't. But it's all about like making sure you're getting at least something quality to put up there. So, but
Yep. New
the
roof, new deck, new driveway. It adds up quick.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and those are all very large projects in their own right.
Uh, yeah, for sure. Garage is next, but I'm broke.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, congratulations on home life. It's
Thanks, man.
yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. You have to kind of take it
We
with
didn't
what it
want to
is.
necessarily be here, but we've been here so long. It's just like might as well buy now before it gets too crazy. And the way that this situation was, I ended up, being able to negotiate a pretty good deal. So we're really happy with it.
Nice. Very cool. Well, we've already been talking about projects. We've already been kind of talking about, essentially what has been indirectly said here is just the whole, pepper grower, pepper lover, spicy connoisseur, if you will, timeline in life. It's like every time it starts to get cold outside, if you're constantly trying to push yourself, you're switching typically here to solid, just solely sauces, maybe some tinctures and some powders. But that whole pepper high, that pepper push that has been going on for pretty much the whole summer is
Mm.
completely fizzled out. A lot of people struggle to sit idly on their hands in this duration. I have fallen victim to it in the past. This year, I have told myself I will not touch or start seeds until at least the 17th, 18th of February. And so,
That's a noble goal, and most people get the itch way too soon. But dude, I'm not even thinking about seeds until last week of March, if I even think about them this year. The whole entire farm is dismantled. I might think about like doing a follow along as I build a pepper farm from scratch type thing, but that's who knows how it's going to go this year.
That is a pretty cool idea, and definitely one that was gonna be definitely well received amongst those that, already have, been following along with everything that you have going on, but then you're also, all those curious minds that are wanting to jump in for the first time. I could see that being a very powerful and informative and impactful, series if you were to do that.
It's actually, my wife's kind of threw the idea at me because she's watching some guy, like, I guess, build his house or something, and every single reel or short is like an update on that process, and they're all into that. So
Yep,
who knows?
yep.
Maybe I'll do it. It'll probably end up being B-roll. Who knows?
Yeah.
I spend my whole year growing and filming, and then at the end, I'm like, I should really make a video. So who knows, man?
Yeah. Well, maybe it looks like that. It's just B-roll going through as like the progress is happening, and then yeah, I could see where you just basically take that hodgepodge of B-roll and then add your own like spoken word
Hmm.
underneath as the final. Hey, watch the whole thing unravel at
Hmm.
once. Be
What's that
pretty cool.
saying? Is I don't procrastinate. I just wait until panic ensues and strengthens my focus. How's
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Yeah, you
Hey,
know the deal.
yeah, well, and I mean, it is. I was just actually having this conversation the other day with my wife. My wife likes to, the second that something is dropped in front of her, it's like it has to be done then. As to where I'm much more like, all right, cool. I
Minute.
have till what day? All right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The last minute is when my best work is done.
yep, yep. All these other things also have a deadline. Let's focus on those first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
like, don't complain that he doesn't get it done because that last minute is really got some work in there.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. If you only knew that last quarter push that just really happened to make this whole thing come together.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, it's a
I
mess,
mean,
man.
that's
Expensive world out there right now, but we're just trying to make it the best we can.
yeah. Well, and I mean that kind of plays in perfectly the idea of as well. It's like I've had this as a upcoming episode already set up as like a solo thing where it's going to be diving in. I would love to know your viewpoint on this, if you will. If you were to start with say a small garden, and here's where I've started to figure out like how would I define this, right? So excluding like not completely out of the conversation because obviously not everyone's just going to solely be growing peppers. Most listening and watching this probably will, but there's also going to be those that will like to have a small garden to the side, or maybe they got their garden's the full thing and they're trying to figure out peppers. Like as someone growing, let's say anywhere from 20 to let's not take it too big, but I mean this is still pretty. Any of these sizes can get pretty manageable, but 20 to let's say 60 different plants, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
strategically, I have already started to navigate how I think I would want to best handle selection. But in today's day and age, where there's so many new varieties every single second, it seems like,
Oh, yeah.
and you have your tried and trues, you have your heirlooms, you have all these different everything that's out there as possibilities. How would say how would you say approach the idea of selecting from that standpoint? Are you saying, or would you think you would say go full send on things that you're just interested in, or would you like to sprinkle in some tried and trues that you know are going to perform? How would you break that down?
I'd say compile a list of everything that you either have or want to grow, and then just prioritize by how much you foresee yourself wanting to pick and process. And that all depends on how you're growing too. So I can 40 or 50 plants is too much for me to
Mm,
handle by myself, but that's because I'm growing big plants.
mhm,
If you're growing 40 to 51 gallons, it takes you like 15 seconds to pick that thing, whereas if you're growing in a 100-gallon smart pot, you're going to be on that plant for 1 to 2 hours a piece, and that's
mhm.
every time you pick. So you just got to prioritize, like, how much work do I really feel like doing. um you know do I have enough jars for all these peppers? stuff like that. So I suggest you go smaller than you think. You know, eyes are always bigger than the stomach, kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's hard. It's hard when there's so many. It's like analysis paralysis. There's so many things out there. You're just like inundated with new names all the time. Looks wise, not really until something like hot pink or something comes out where it's like the first variegated Chinese dominant super hots, and you're like, okay, gotta grow that one,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just you got to really think about, okay, man, how much do I want to pick and how much do I want to process? And if you're de-seeding, that's a whole other thing. That's just mind numbing. So it's kind of one of those things. You just have to prioritize like what your workload is going to be, and so for some people they don't understand how much that might be because they might get really really lucky and do everything right that first year, and now they've just got tons of work to do. So
Yep.
go small first, then step it up. But again, it's all in context because container size is going to control a lot of that. uh, Really, it is because container size, thermal mass, keeping the roots cool, depending on, or hot or warmer, depending on your zone. All those things play in. And obviously, the bigger the container, the more peppers you're going to get. And that's the more work. So,
Yeah, yeah, very, very well said there. And it is one of those things. It's very true to what you're saying. Analysis by paralysis. You have ultimately this idea of um, trying to decipher. Definitely, if you're brand new, trying to decipher what pepper is going to be enjoyable for somebody that maybe doesn't have much knowledge, right? And then they're trying to figure out, okay, well, I also, ego gets dragged into this. Definitely as you're starting out, the whole bravado thing starts to come out, right? And you're wanting to essentially keep up with the Joneses. And I think a
mm-hmm,
lot of young growers will step in, and what they'll end up seeing is like, oh, this guy over here, he's growing, 1,000 plants, or and it's
mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm,
no, 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 that's a company over there driving
mm-hmm,
a business forward, and you are starting out to, spark this flame of passion. Don't go extinguishing it by overstretching yourself to keep up with a full-fledged business. And
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
it becomes one of those things where it's like, um, you know, it's great to have all this knowledge at our hands and at the ready, but just because you have the knowledge on something doesn't mean that you need to act upon that knowledge at that exact moment. It's always
Yeah,
great
and
to
none of
have
those
those things.
businesses ever talk about how difficult processing is, and never talk about the fact that they have to have help, you know. So it's that eyes bigger than the stomach thing, man.
Yep, yep. Pretty wild times right there. But so as far as the I guess once again for those that are clarifying, and I know this is something that you're very passionate about, so I want to make sure that we also bring that up. The idea of when is the more appropriate time to start seeds. I know that your hot seat nominations in the past, and other people that you've kind of like mentioned in prior episode, talking about like, hey, this person's doing great things, so on and so forth. One thing that seems to reign true is sticking to fundamentals
Hmm.
and being able to be disciplined enough in many different facets, whether that just be overall regiment, overall starting date, all these different things factoring in, but execution is flawless in that. So I guess the main thing from there, it seems to be to take away is don't overcomplicate the situation at hand.
Mm-mm. No, keep it simple, stupid. Yep,
So,
that's a big listen. When you've got so much conflicting information out there on the right way to grow peppers, it's no surprise that people are gonna. It sounds perfectly reasonable and logical to say, well, if I start my pepper seeds 5 months before my plant out date, then obviously I'm gonna have a head start. And it's like, well, maybe if you understand what the plants, this genus, actually wants for optimal condition ranges, sure. And if you can provide those for 5 months indoors, sure, that does make sense. Most people are not hitting those check boxes. So they're growing in super small containers, very weak lighting. They don't feed enough, they don't water enough. You know, a plant that's subjected to torture for 5 months is not better than my plant that I've only grown for 4 weeks under perfect conditions indoors, you know?
Hmm.
So it's everything's in context. And as long as you understand that this genus has a specific set range of conditions that are optimal and in which you get the fastest amount of growth and fruiting from, then you're going to be good. And that's why I always harp on these pepper growing fundamentals. It's just 4 easy check boxes. And, there's subcategories within each one, but it's 4 easy check boxes. It's light intensity, container size and soil quality, ever present nutrient in the medium, and temps between 65 and 95. If you're hitting that, you don't have to start so early in your season. It takes 4 to 6 weeks. I've done time lapse after time lapse of this and shown people, many, many times. These things grow quick if they're given the right conditions. And, I talk a lot about that in one of these recent videos that I published, 30 years of pepper growing mistakes that you need to avoid. And it's just basically everything I was doing wrong the entire time growing up learning these plants. And if I'd have had somebody tell me sooner, no, don't listen to all that crap. This is how you do it. And then if I'd have just done that thing, uh, this wouldn't have taken so long. So just trying
Yeah.
to save other people that heartache.
Yeah, and I mean, applaud you for that because at the same time, it's like a lot of people will not only the time that is lost during that whole navigating and understanding and all that stuff, but then there's that money, there's that stress and the strain that could be bringing to not only that individual, but maybe you don't always know kind of the deck that someone's dealt,
Hmm.
right? That might end up being more of a financial burden to them because they're once again their eyes are telling them that they should be doing something more grandiose.
Yep.
And realistically, it's like, get in, get an understanding, keep it simple, learn from others, and just add to instead of trying to chase that end destination right away.
Yep. Yep. Just learn the principles. If you learn the basic fundamentals, you're going to be fine. And your plants are going to show you immediately that you've done something right. And that is really, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anybody else in the Pepper Guru community telling you about this. Don't listen to us. Listen to the plants. Try what we say and then just watch your plants. And if they don't do what you think they should do, then don't listen to us. But they will. you know
Yeah,
it's science. They will.
that definitely makes
Results speak
sense.
really loud.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It would definitely make sense there. And I guess to lean into the whole like Pepper Guru community aspect of things, I'm sure you're seeing and I'm sure there's a lot of conversation that flows back and forth in the sense of like beneficial things that have been, just championed at one spot and another. And then I guess there's more of a live trial basis kind of going on, like for any kind of experimental things, I would assume, is
Hmm.
probably there's a nice, healthy group of people kind of championing that
Hmm.
forward. Now, with that being seen, has there ever really kind of been something that you've noticed during this time frame that is kind of caught you off guard, maybe with the results that were found?
Not with any of the results, but because you got faith in results, right? Results speak for themselves. If it doesn't matter how many papers you've compiled, summarized, analyzed, how many studies, when you just do things and experiment and then they end up working, now you might be able to apply a different causation to a correlation and it might not be right. Your understanding and conclusions may be wrong, but repetitive results are very eye-opening, right? So whether you understand the whys or the intricacies of it, it doesn't matter so long as you're getting better yields than you got before. And I think one of the main like mental limitations and hurdles for new growers is like putting their zone on a pedestal, right? And oh well, you're in Atlanta, that's perfect pepper weather. Well, is it more perfect than South America? Is it more perfect than Central America? Is it more perfect than Mexico? Is it, it's like in terms of what? Because
Mhm.
these things evolved down in the Andes, right? And down in South America, equatorial 12-12 all day long. So it's like, what is perfect? It's kind of relative, but the thing that just kills me is newer growers being like, well, I can never do that. And it's like, dude, yeah, you can. And we got people like Brian Hamilton, Stu Smith, Jackson Horton, Phil Latour, Richard from Sick and Twisted Pepper Seeds, all in Canada and Connecticut, and Odin from Sweden, Carl from Ireland. These dudes are killing it, and they're in super north zones. Like tundra boys killing it with peppers.
Mhm.
So the proof is in the pudding. You just got to, and they're like, well, what you say doesn't apply to my zone. And it's like, it's not what I'm saying. These are a set specific range of conditions that this plant wants. Those conditions and those requirements don't change just because you live in the North Pole. Only your approach to providing them changes. You see?
Yep.
And that's where people are getting mixed up. They're just putting the limiting thing on there where they're like, I can't do it. So if you're going in with I can't, you won't.
Yep. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, and then at the same time, it's something that you were saying during that stood out to me, at least. And I feel like a lot of folks, maybe, whether they're up north, whatever the case may be, you have, because once again, social media being the inspiration for envy, if you will, someone may see that they have already had growing season, restraints, if you will, be lifted. Man, maybe there's not snow in one area now, as to where the person viewing that on social media might be still in, less than ideal conditions to start seeds
Yeah.
or
So
to have
yeah,
plants.
and so that's where timing comes in.
Yep.
That's where that big temperature fundamental comes in. If you know that your ground temperature and your air temperature isn't going to reach a low of 65 until June 1st, sounds like you better not start seeds until 4 to 6 weeks before that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sounds like you better not plant out before that happens. But
Yep.
people aren't really thinking about that. They're just like my zone, my zone, my zone, and they're not thinking about, okay, well, if your zone is only providing temperatures at lows of 65 by June 1st, sounds like June 1st is your plant out date.
Yep.
It's a timing thing.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like that's where people throw out the good information over interpreting it inappropriately. So they
Yeah.
may see that, okay, well, you told me to do X, Y, and Z, but I tried to do that now and it just doesn't work. Well, it's like, well, no, you're trying to apply it
Yeah.
early.
You
It's
just
it's as
planted
if
your
you're,
plant in 40-degree soil temps. I mean,
yep,
what do you expect? You
yep.
know?
You
So,
don't go into that hard turn, and instead of letting off the gas, you don't just go in there and slam on the brakes and be like, no, you told me to turn here and this is your
right.
fault why I didn't continue forward. And it's like, well, no, you operated this whole thing incorrectly.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
all
And it's
right.
just timing. Mostly timing and the zone, putting the zone on a pedestal. It's like, yeah, sure, zone is important because it determines how you are going to approach capsicum's optimal requirements, but it's not going to change the requirements.
Yeah. Yeah.
So get imaginative, use your ingenuity. If you have to build structure, if you have to wait, wait. 70% of the Earth's surface experiences temperatures above 65 degrees for at least 2 to 3 months out of the year. So, like 70% of people on Earth really don't have an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would imagine the majority of the individuals that are in the zones where that doesn't happen, or in the places in the world that that doesn't happen, are probably not going
Right.
to be interested in growing pepper plants in the first place. So,
Or they're building greenhouses,
yeah,
or
yeah. Which, you know, speaking of structure, speaking of building, I guess to tie back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as with your, you know, with your home now, what are your thoughts? What are your plans for your grow space? Are you going to have, you know, an enclosed greenhouse? Are you going to be solely, once again, rocking above ground? How's this going to shape out?
Well, I entered the grow down again this year, so I'm gonna have to grow at least one plant. I think we're doing the starfish stripey or something like that, some kind of stripey bacatum. But I'm gonna do at least one plant. But the main goal is to get a proper industrial high tunnel installed, and I'll be growing inside of that and outside of it. So
Very nice. I like it. Look forward to it. You know, your knowledge and focus and determination focused only on one plant could be insane. The overall results that come out. So, definitely excited to see how that plays out.
that's how you got to do these grow downs. You got to show them what's up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think my first exposure with one was on a Dorset Naga competition. Everyone was I was like, God, what was that? 2018? Maybe 2017, 2018, something like that. There was this massive Dorset Naga, you know, grow off, and there was two others, I think. And
Hmm.
I ended up, I don't even remember how. I ended up just getting in late on it, but I was just blown away by what some of these guys are able to do. And that was my first exposure to the idea of like, maybe my approach isn't right, and maybe I should probably take a look at something else. And then I started to start my journey to really figure out how to better do the organic side of things. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that Dorset Naga pumps for sure. I don't know if you caught it, but Sean and Calvin from Chili Chump and Pepper Geek, they threw a Dorset Naga grow down in 2023, I think. And I was trying to beat Nigel, and so was Sean, uh, but I didn't quite get there. Frost got me before I could get there, But my plant was a little bit younger than theirs and was coming right up on their heels. So,
Very, very cool. Yeah, the thing that always like is baffling, and you know, surprise in general always works this way. But those silent contestants that, you know, maybe showed a few pictures here, a few pictures there, but then all of a sudden we're like showing off and live video of, you know, them next to their pepper plant and everything that's on it. It's like, man, it's just you don't expect it from, you know, those that are just those silent contributors to just pop off
hmm
like that. But
there's
it's
a lot of
always
great
fun.
growers out there that don't do a lot of talking. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's also leading into this whole other issue of just the, you know, talk about this all the time. I feel like privately with certain folks that will reach out and they'll ask questions on this, but it's like I don't understand how we've got to a level of society where you sure, like, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but like understanding and navigating the waters of like just how to handle yourself online. You know, you can
Hmm.
have a very strong opinion about something, but knowing how to there's a difference between like poking fun and just absolutely
Punching
going
down.
at the throats. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And I've got a friend who he's like, dude, I'm only punching up from now on. And I think that's a really good idea. Like, because you do, and I'm guilty of it too, man. I'll get wrapped up in this stuff, and it's just it's not a great use of my time when I
Hmm.
prioritize it against other things I could be doing. So in that regard, it's kind of pointless. And maybe it helped people see what they needed to see. Maybe it didn't. If I help one person, that's enough. If it pisses 100 off to help one, okay, I'm fine with that too. You know, I just don't avoid that type of conflict. That's just in my nature to be that way. So I kind of hit that kind of stuff head on.
Mm-hmm.
But it is exhausting. It is exhausting. The online environment. Everybody's a know-it-all, and I've been accused of being that too. And listen, I don't even mind being the dumb one in the room, and I don't care about being right, and I don't care about titles. I care about results. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're talking a lot of crap without the results, I ain't listening,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. And I feel like a lot of people get caught up in that. They, and very true to what you're saying. Yes, I have got caught up into this and I have been a part of this as well in the past and in different situations. But there's plenty of times where I'll catch myself, even, these days in general, 2026, even with just the start of this new year being only as little into it as it has, I've already caught myself like starting to type a response and I'm like, no, before I
Delete.
hit send, just delete this. It's not even worth the time. I don't know why. I just exhausted that effort to think of, what I was going to say back to this. It's just like you don't
That's
end up
90 that's
feeding it.
90% of my posts nowadays.
It's just
Delete.
crazy. Yeah.
Not worth it.
Yeah. And it's so easy to like so easy to get caught up in the idea of like, oh, this is so much like, like it's not so much fun to say that, but like you have this like I already know my response. I already know exactly what I'm gonna say. And then like
Mhm.
you get it out there and you're like, oh, that's probably not the best thing for me to say. And it's just like the fact that I guess I'm just baffled at the fact that there's so many people in society that don't have that filter. Like I have a
Yeah.
lot of like absentees to filters in general, which is fine. Like I personally I don't care. It's not going to ruffle my feathers one way or another what someone else thinks possibly differently than me or alongside with me. But the idea is the idea of like cutting that off. It is, I never really thought, I always thought, free speech is definitely important, but I've never really thought how much that is important in every asset of life, right?
Mhm.
It's just it invokes the idea of learning, educating, adapting, evolving, right? If
Mhm.
you shut yourself off to that, then society starts to crumble, society starts to get redundant, people lose interest in just
Yeah.
living, and it
If
becomes
we know
bad.
everything, what's the point?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are falling into that with this AI life, right? Very true to what
Ugh.
you're saying. The know-it-alls, right? They're the ones that are also probably spending the majority of their time talking to some form of large language model,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's where
Mhm.
they're that's now become their counselor, that's become their advisor, that's become their
Friend.
bible in most cases. Like
Yeah.
it is getting scary how this is kind of
Like talking
formulating.
about their feelings to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know where we're headed with that. I can only have faith in, it's going to be okay. And we'll make it through this crap too. And listen, it just all boils down to the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Everybody can talk online, everybody can argue online. And it's like what you said with typing out this big long thing. And at the end, you're just like, to me, I just ask that final question: is this going to help this person? Are they even going to digest this? If the
Mm-hmm.
answer is no, then I'll usually delete it, because it's like, they listen, you can't change someone's mind who's got their mind made up,
Yep.
and maybe countless times of them seeing other people getting results they aren't getting might get them to change their tune, but that's just going to be a show and tell thing. You can't argue this stuff into people.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And it's the old adage too of so I guess really, I guess to delve into that side of things, like we've always had bad actors, if you will, as a whole,
Mm,
whether just
mm,
untrustworthy, whether giving you incorrect product, whatever the case may be. There's always been some form of that guy in the overall,
mhm.
that person in the overall community, right? And it's not that they should be dragged through the streets and beat. While some people may feel that way, it's like ultimately the main duty, in my view, as a community is to just educate newcomers, new people,
Mhm.
and anyone that may not be privy to it. It's like avoiding avoiding the potholes, right, in the
Yeah.
road. Don't let
Yeah,
that pothole define your journey.
and unfortunately, you know, in the past, especially like before COVID hit, Facebook was inundated with these types.
Mhm.
All the groups were inundated with these types, and everybody was buying their crap, you know, and there were other names supporting them as well,
Mhm.
you know, and then you get run out of the group for telling the truth and, you know, exposing things in good faith, you know, not because you have some grudge against this person, but simply because you've witnessed them take actions that are not cool,
Yep.
you know, and that's a shame. But I even think that's changed a little bit over the
Mhm.
years, so that's looking up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I guess from that standpoint too, it's like when you look at the track record, if you look at like history of just the overall evolution of these communities, something that you brought up, I think it's very valuable here because it's the idea that like whether you speak up about something, whether you have a different take on something that's going on or a method or whatever the case may be, and people will, very true to what you're saying, it's like I run this group and I will dictate how this group gets its information and what it's told. And then they'll like remove people from that. It's like, cool,
That's
you got
yeah, and
guidelines, you got rules.
that's like that's like fence thin ice kind of stuff because
Yep.
there's going to be people who are actually bad actors saying that, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be people who actually care curating a group, which there's nothing wrong with, right?
Yes.
It's just the fact that these bad actors always try to mirror and emulate what good people are doing because they want to fit in and they want you to think they're good, you
Yep.
know? So they're going to try to pull that same kind of MO or that same movement. And you just have to consider your source, you know?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like I said, it's looking up and it's not all doom and gloom, you
yeah,
know?
no.
It's Facebook's getting a lot better in that regard. And I think the majority of newer growers are being educated a little bit better.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that is the promising side of this all. That is the upside. Is ultimately there is much more exposure to new growers, new individuals that are curious about, whether, I mean, a lot of times they could easily just stumble across someone's pepper related content based off of just a growing video or how to
mhm.
set up tutorial or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, you're having tons of great new eyes on and, sparked passions and really all these other fun things really added into the mix. But yeah, very true. It's just that whole thought process made me think like how many times are there people that are running groups now evaluating like maybe this was a harsh decision or maybe now that I see this, and it's like so many I feel don't evaluate that as like, okay, well maybe I wrongfully blacklisted this person, right?
Yeah, and the problem with there being yeah, exactly. The problem with there being so many bad actors is that you get, like, trigger happy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to if every if you're a hammer, everything's a nail, you know?
Yep.
So, it's that thing, man. It's like, those bad actors just kinda mess up the environment for people actually discussing things in good faith that may just disagree or may not have the information that allows them to agree with you first, and they actually have a genuine interest in learning the accuracy, you know.
Yep.
It's a mess sometimes, but you know I just consistency, honesty, transparency, all those things are very important. And even when you make a mistake, it's really important to be able to look at that years later and go, yeah, I messed up. You know, this is where I messed up. This is how I messed up. And moving forward, this is how I know to fix that. You know,
Yep.
and that could be information you did, a mistake you made on labeling, whatever the case. And then there's some things that are just kind of inexcusable. and we know what those are, and we see those every day in these Facebook groups. So,
Yep. Yep.
you know,
Yeah. Very, very true. Now, I guess really kind of steer away from this because, like, obviously, there's so many like things and nuances and just understanding and discussing rationale and human behavior, et cetera, that are fascinating there for me. But for those that are, maybe more interested in the pepper side of things, I do want
mm,
to ask for the 2026 grow. Is there something that you saw in 2025, or maybe that you have seen in the past that's like kind of caught your eye from a pepper standpoint that you're like, either this pepper doesn't get enough love, or maybe this is something that's a cool newer to you type of variety even that has stood out.
I'm always, I've never been into the designer super hot hybrid thing just because it's always been a lot of hot air.
Hmm.
But there are actual hybridizers out there doing real work. And when new things happen, I take notice. So, I'm definitely going to be growing a lot of the wilds that I collected with my buddy Shane in Argentina recently, like some of that flexuosum and some of those peppers that I found there, along with that grow down thing. But if there's anything that I really want to focus on this year, it's just growing out some of that stuff from Brian Townsend that he's working on, and that stuff is just incredible. The guys put 3 to 4 different variegation traits in these C Chinense dominant super hots, and this stuff's going to blow people's minds once he starts releasing it. And I'm just really lucky to be able to, help him select through that and grow through that.
Absolutely. Brian is often one of those that have thrown out there and mentioned that like I need to really just dive in deeper. I started to peel back that and kind of take a look at the grow pictures and everything that he's kind of put out there at a very small scale compared to what I should. And
Hmm.
yeah, from what I have seen, it has been very eye opening. There's some very jaw dropping, beautiful shots in there. Great grow. Like excluding the peppers itself, the grow is always looking strong, very healthy. So
Hmm. And he has
just
to deal with a lot of crap in Florida too. It's just constant rain, constant fungus, constant pests.
mhm.
It's unforgiving having to work down there. So the fact that he's getting anything done is pretty impressive, and the fact that he's creating a completely new genre of pepper that no one's ever seen before, that's impressive, dude. This
Yeah.
is this is new stuff, This ain't, oh, this is new and it's just some other thing. This is new. No one's ever seen striped, variegated, super hot sea chinense before.
Mm.
And that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, well, and with that, I guess that kind of dovetails perfectly to what I was thinking earlier. But you have all these people that will lean in towards the AI for helping. But if you actually had someone that was well versed in already the breeding process, the capabilities, and what can be done, it would be interesting to have like kind of devil's advocate working with the AI to try to see, how could you get some whether rare genetics like that possible to happen to maybe developing something that's more cold resistant, etc., all these different traits, right, that would
Hmm.
ultimately bring forward a new uh you know evolution to peppers as a whole.
Well, even if you're not a geneticist, I'm not, and I'm not doing Punnett squares. The bottom line is you just throw the traits at the things you want over and over and over again, and you sow large numbers, large, and you keep doing this, and you back cross, you know,
Yeah.
interline crosses, back crosses, and
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. Numbers and throwing the traits you want at it until something sticks, you know.
It is such a level of commitment. It's such a level of gambling, I guess, if you will, at the same time, on whether or not something's going to stick, on whether or not something is going to continue forward that generation or the generation after. There's a lot of moving variables, and it's like at that point, as you're going through this process. I can only imagine the organization level that is required to save, document all the different things of the,
Oh yeah.
this is the seeds from this generation, but in case that generation now shows in this upcoming one that it's not going to be,
Yep.
on par with what we need, then I need a
Yep.
backdate to these seeds. And it's like so many things
And
can
that's a
go
major
wrong.
red flag about people who claim to be hybridizers. It's like I've never met any real hybridizers who don't document their work,
Hmm.
who don't have 30 gigs of Google Drive of this stuff every time they've back crossed something to something, every time something didn't work, the numbers that they ended up with this trait and out of this zone batch, eh, you definitely want to be documenting your stuff, because without documenting, I mean, I don't see how you can actually make any real progress. um, I'm not a hybridizer because I just like I like old school. So very rarely does something get bred and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. This variegated sea china stuff from Brian is really, really cool. And I know a lot of hybridizers that have been trying for many years to get this stuff to stick. And some of these traits don't act like other traits. So you being able to get something to stick might it might be a long process with a lot of different trial and error, but this stuff is that he's doing is pretty cool. That's all I can say. And I'm just
Okay.
really, really grateful to be able to help him select through it and grow through it and dangle the carrot a little bit.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I know you just got the home. I know you kind of got a lot of plans and projects and things going in that sense. Have you been earmarking any upcoming travels? Whether to find new peppers or just have fun and break away.
Yeah, me and Jen are going on our 26th anniversary. I'm going to take her to Peru. She's never been past Central America, so this will be her first trip down into Peru. It'll be my third. I took Bash with me back in 2023 to find Capsicum geminiifolium down in Aguas Calientes, where Machu Picchu is. And I think this is going to be really cool. I'm going to take her like through a Sacred Valley trip, see all the megalithic sites and stuff like that. So
That is
it's going to be
very
really cool. Of
awesome.
course, I'm going to be looking for peppers, but it's going to be an anniversary trip.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Yeah. No, it's though that the idea sounds extremely fascinating to me. The one thing that I know that's always the hindrance is my level of ease of being able to either both understand and speak Spanish. So in that sense, I'm always like, yeah, I just don't know if I can do it. I don't
you
know
can
how
do it.
well that would work.
You can do it. Spanish, honestly, Spanish is easier than English because just English has so many different words for the same thing. Spanish is pretty easy. Everything's based on like masculine and possessive form. So, a couple of freaking Rosetta Stone or any language learning software, it'll get you to where you can at least move through the country, you know,
Yeah.
fairly easily. If you need to eat, if you need to know where a bathroom is, etc., just learn the basics and just humble yourselves and try to speak the language and you'll get a lot further.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense in this, the whole connecting aspect there and being able to actually have people want to willingly open up, whether
Hmm.
that be their knowledge base, their home,
Hmm.
their food, whatever the case that they're, imparting on you at that point. It's
Yeah, and a lot of it is just total immersion too, because once you get down there and you just rent your car and go, you're on your own. Yeah, you got Google Translate on your phone, and you can awkwardly try to hold the phone up in between conversations and stuff. But eventually, it's just some of it's going to seep in, and you're going to start being able to recite some of the things you've learned, and in order to get the next meal or find out where the next place is or ask questions.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely learning Spanish will definitely help your experience while you're down there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be on the list of things. I know my wife likes to. She likes the ocean island life aspect more. So I don't think that that will be the next trip we go on, but that'll definitely be one that's on the list. Is to, just the idea just sounds a lot of fun. Just dropping yourself in somewhere and trying to figure out the way of things go, and how do the locals do their day to day, and trying to be kind of
Mhm.
like spending a day in the life. It's just
Yep.
sounds like a lot of fun
And
to me.
Airbnb is a really great way to be able to place yourself in the same house as real families, you know, and kind of see what that country's actually like, as opposed to resorts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The people working at resorts, that's not the same experience that you get when you just go driving. You end up in a town you've never heard of, and then you just pull up Airbnb or Google and you look for rooms to stay, and then bam, nice little villa somewhere, super affordable, beautifully hospitable people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the experience. That's what makes it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and from the Airbnb standpoint, did you or have you had any kind of like issues? Because I assume someone's probably looking at that and they're going like, "Oh, somebody from America booked this place. Like, is this real? Is this not real?" It'd probably be the same way. Like, if for us here, it's like, okay, someone from this other country is trying to book the Airbnb. Is this legitimate, right? That
Oh,
whole level of questionable nature, I feel like, could be a bit problematic on the just spontaneous. But I guess at that point, you're just jumping to the next listing if you haven't heard anything back.
you're gonna hear it, if they've got it open for booking. The second you push book, they're already buying groceries. Trust me, because that's a big source of income. Even if the rooms are only like, I've stayed in some unbelievable places for like 15-20 bucks a night that are better than any $150 a night resort you could go to.
Mm-hmm.
Quieter, real farm life, views that a resort can't get you,
Mm-hmm.
food that the resort can't get you, you know. It's just a difference in travel style. Some people feel safer sticking to the resorts, sticking to hired drivers, public transportation right around that little local area. That's just not how I do things. I just grab a car and I just go.
Yep. Yeah.
I go wherever the iNaturalist hits are. I just get my iNaturalist app out. I'm looking up a species. I'm like, okay, there's hits for that here. Let's go. And then you might be driving for 6-9 hours, but you're going to get there and it's going to be awesome. And the drives to those places through the country, stopping at every fruit stand, talking to different farmers. I've gotten out and I've seen like a big pile of ají criollo sea chinense sitting on a table before. And the guy's like, yeah, come check it out. And then we get out. I pull out my camera. He doesn't care. I'm asking him questions on camera. He's walking me around the farm. And it just happens like that. You know,
Man.
those are
Yeah.
the moments. That's travel to me.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yes, it's the whole spontaneous nature to it all. It's the whole actual communal aspect to it all. There's just so much, that you don't get today. It's very
Mhm.
easy to pull up a video on traveling to this part of the world or that part of the world, but I guess that's why a lot of those like documentary shows and so on and so forth, whether that be on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, and they're having all this together, and why so many people just avidly digest it is because they want that true, authentic travel instead of
Mhm.
like hey, here's where we are and this great old and they're showing you this resort that it looks like no different than just being somewhere in
Yeah.
America, right?
Yeah. It's
And
like,
it's
are you in Orlando? It's like, where are you?
yeah,
Miami?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
like the
not the
real
same.
travel.
Yeah.
And when I was younger and I couldn't afford rental cars, it was public transportation on like Tepsa and just terrifying adventures. But honestly, those were like the best times when I didn't have any money and I'm just trying to figure out how to move through the country. And it's just like, okay, well, this bus is, $8. This one's $19. This is a sleeper. This one's broken down. The brakes don't work on this one. We're going through the Andes at, 90 miles an hour down blind turns. He's passing people. that's adventure, dude. You know.
Yeah, yeah. That's a big roll right there. Big roll of the
Uh,
dice on whether that's gonna turn out great or go horrifically wrong.
yeah, and you hear these horror stories all the time, and that stuff does happen. But for the most part, I've never felt unsafe really in a place outside of the U.S.
Yeah,
I mean, there are places you can go and be real stupid and wander into as a tourist, places you shouldn't be. But that's same thing with here in Atlanta. There's places in Atlanta I wouldn't venture into.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you just got to use your noggin.
And it's a very interesting navigation to this ever changing world. It feels like there's always this reshuffling of, I guess right now it's just a power vacuum essentially has been going on for the last let's call it 10 plus years of just like who's the bigger man in this
Mm,
situation,
mm.
and it's
Yeah,
it's
and
making it.
unfortunately, I think it's the same as it's always been. It's just that now me and you are getting to see it. So now we're like, oh, it was never this way. And back in my day, but I remember my granddad saying that too.
Yep.
So it's just this thing keeps on ticking and keeps on spinning. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna have to do the best we can with whatever's thrown our way in this world because you just got to make out of it what you make the world you want. And
Yeah.
there's things we're not going to be able to control. You're not going to be able to control politicians or world powers and all this stuff. So just make your world good.
Yeah. Have you noticed there been like any kind of really decline in overall tourism aspects, or has it been like difficult to kind of navigate some of these travels throughout this? Because
Not
that's the thing they paint, of course.
No, and yeah, they do that, and it's always every single time I go to plan a trip, you look at the United States Embassy warning level for that country. It's always red. It's always orange. And I'll be honest with you, the best times I've ever had has been traveling during crazy, crazy like turmoil because prices are cheaper. Now here's the caveat. Caveat is you better not be stuck to a rigid itinerary in those times because sometimes these guys are going to like lift the road stones up and block the roads. You're not getting through. You're going to have to walk through these events, get on the other side of them, then hire transportation out once you get on the other side. But even through those little mishaps, it's just like that's adventure to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's where like the memories are made. So it's never like I said, I've never felt unsafe even during what our government is describing as an unsafe time to be there in those countries. It always seems like propaganda to me, and there might be some truth to it. Like I think one time me and Jen landed in Istanbul, and right before we landed, the airport had been bombed, and when we were taking off from our next flight, it was like 7 or 8 hours later or something. Uh, Something happened, like in a big, huge fire truck came up to our plane and was putting out some kind of fire, and we had to get off that plane. I never really worry about it; it just is what it is,
Yeah.
and you, just got to take risks if you're going to make memories, I guess.
Yeah.
But you do it wisely, and you don't put yourself into you don't knowingly put yourself into hairy situations. Just be wise.
Yeah. Well, definitely look forward to the traveling update. I'm sure there's going to be at least some form of B-roll at the least on y'all's travel venture. And so look forward to seeing that as that rolls out. Also look forward to, watching and being a part of keeping up with your grow and just how you end up really defining your new space, right? How you make it
Mhm.
yours. Cause I know it's going to be very fun, fascinating. There's always going to be great ways to show case really just how you're able to have these monster plants, and it gives that level of reassurance, it gives that vote of confidence to maybe some of those that are out there struggling trying to navigate these waters that just dialing back, keeping it simple, and
Hmm.
really applying the fundamentals will go so much further for them. So
Yeah, and
very cool.
this isn't rocket science. Anyone can grow great pepper plants. It's like four check boxes. That's it. If you can check off those four boxes, you're going to get good results.
Yep.
And just keeping
Yep.
it simple, focusing on the fundamental principles.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and then I guess as far as you're just for those that are, maybe keeping up already, or maybe they're now interested in keeping up with Pepper Guru side of things, is there anything else that they can kind of, I guess, what's the best way for them to get plugged into that community side?
You can visit pepperguru.com, join up, apply to join. We do a membership thing. I have a forum over there where plenty of growers just like you are
Mm-hmm.
asking questions and helping answer questions and sharing what they're growing this year. And it's slow to launch. I just launched, within the last year. So we got 500 members with 200 active,
Very
and
nice.
we'll get there. It's definitely not Facebook, but we'll get there.
It's strong stats too. I mean, you got to think it's not only a time commitment from those users. Obviously, you had to build everything out too, but like, someone has to deliberately choose. It's very easy to get in the habit of hitting. Oh, I'm going to click on Facebook. Oh, I'm going to click on whatever. But
Hmm.
it to be intentional. So that means that that group of active participants, active members are not there for just fluff. They're there for very intentional reasons. So,
Hmm.
that's where the whole quantity versus quality argument comes into play, because really right there, having quality, head count being lesser than this massive, contribution pool that may only see 1% of overall participants.
Yeah.
I know where I would rather be, majority of
Yeah,
my
it's
time.
definitely quality over quantity because, like we were stating before, everybody's got an opinion about everything, and everybody's granddad and grandma did something certain ways on, half moon this, and
Hmm.
hold your lips like this when you plant it like that, and your cat won't come. And it's just, so it's better to curate a space and have everybody on the same page for sure.
Yep. Yep. No.
But again, and I'm not, it doesn't elude me the fact that forums are an older school form of communication. I've just always been into forums, so it's
Hmm.
something I wanted to offer our members. And I get that, most people are going to want to be on Facebook or Discord or something like that. And if Facebook is more your style, I have a group called Pepper Growing Fundamentals on Facebook. It used to be called Pepper Growing for Beginners. Then it became Pepper Growing Fundamentals. The admins that weren't active on that group didn't like that name change, that final name change. So we decided it was best if I go and create a different group. So that's out there for you too on Facebook. Join it. It's public. Anybody can join. It's still curated. So if you come in there saying, topping increases yield, you're muted. That's just it. You're muted. Sorry, you can watch, but you can't talk, you know?
Yep. Yep. Hey, maybe that's a great policy for some folks, is just to put them on a mute status where they can only watch, only
Yeah.
absorb the information.
Yeah. And one of the rules is be teachable. And that's not even saying this isn't an elitist thing. We're just trying to drive home the importance of the fundamentals. That's it.
Yep.
And if that's what this group is about, you can't join every group on Facebook that you see and then try to change that group into what you think the group should be. The whole
Hmm.
point of a club or a group is that they have their own ideology and you connect with that and want to join. Some people just join to join, and then they get in there and their first post is, I don't believe the admin should talk this way. And it's like, well, see ya,
Yep. Yep. It's,
So,
yeah, they're very simple. You didn't have to join anything.
yeah.
If you didn't like it, then they
I
have a
mean, you
preview
saw,
for a reason.
and, and what's crazy is I always make them repeat the group rules as the participation questions to get in the group. and not only reading those answers are funny sometimes because they will literally tell you who they are in those answers sometimes,
Mhm.
but the people that answer them properly just to get in the group, but then come in the group and break rule one, it's just like, okay, well, bye. I don't know. But
Yep.
again, you get labeled an elitist or unwilling to hear different opinions. It's just not. That's just not the case. Our intention is to teach people how to get good results with their pepper plants, and that's it. You
Yep.
know.
No, very, very cool. I like what's going on there, and I like the overall just beneficial information that you have rolling out, not only on your YouTube, but also throughout different social platforms. So definitely want to advocate for that. Definitely get tapped in, get plugged in, and figure out, the fundamentals to things. Really just take a lot of the pain out. And it's very true to what you're saying. There's no like one silver bullet, but there are
Mm-mm.
those core fundamentals. So.
Yep.
Very, very nice. Like it, and obviously, trying to trying to change up and work on and perfect a few things over here on this side. So hopefully, I can start to contribute to the beneficial avenue of conversation for growers, both in embracing the fundamentals, but also having some fun conversations, whether that be talking about experimental things that have either gone good or gone bad, or venturing off into just the different facets of growing, whether it just be simple discussion of companion planting, or the idea of which sacrificial plants actually work out better in certain growing condition, like
Decoy plants.
yeah, this
You always
year.
hear you always hear like this is a common misconception. Plant marigolds to get rid of mites and aphids. And it's like, no, actually, it's a decoy rather than it is a deterrent. So all it's doing is it's attracting those
Mm,
things. It's
hmm.
not it's not, deterring them.
Yep. I fell victim to that pretty hard 2 or 3 years ago. And so I have since kept the marigolds outside because I like to have all the pollinators and everything around, anyways. So I keep them on the outside of the grow, not on the inside. This last
Hmm.
year, I found out, which I'll be rolling it again this year just to test it, but I put Swiss chard out as just a nice to have. I was like,
Hmm.
if it grows, I'll eat it. If it doesn't, whatever. And I just planted it out there, almost like a companion plant, just without that actual drive incentive, and only to
Hmm.
find out that it actually became the biggest decoy
Aphid
plant.
magnet.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it was
Yeah.
amazing. My pepper plants, I didn't even have to worry about touching once. And so I had collectively in their own solo containers, with the containers sat down between these plants. So like, not only did the aphids and everything have to go circumvent this bucket to get up there, they also had to pass up all these low level, easy to walk up to plants just to go get this. And I'm like,
Hmm.
next year or this year, that is exactly what I'm doing again. I'll roll the
Hmm.
dice. We'll see if this works, because I was blown away, and I was like, it doesn't hurt me at all to miss out on Swiss chard. Swiss chard is relatively cheap at the store, anyways. So
Yep. Same thing with collards. Collards work really well for that around here.
okay, I'll have to
Anytime I've
check
got
that out.
collards nearby, they'll be on aphids will be on that instead of the plants.
Yeah.
So,
The grasshoppers, the aphids, like everything was
yep.
just flogging those. But
Yep.
hey, pepper plants, pepper pods as a whole, I think I had two pepper pods in entirety last season. There wasn't many plants, but still. But only two got nibbled away by some caterpillar or something, had some like noticeable damage. Everything else perfectly fine.
Oh, speaking of them caterpillars, I just got this really cool UV light in from my friend Alan Rockefeller. He's got a Mycena Media.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling these UVs because they do a lot of UV work in photography with mushrooms, because a lot of the exudates and
Oh yeah.
anatomy of mushrooms will glow.
Oh yeah.
And you know, uh, great for finding tomato hornworms on your plants because those stripes just pop.
Very nice.
At night, you go out there with that thing, you'll find them right away.
I would assume that this has become its prey, But over the last couple of years, I have had a alarming uptick in a beneficial way for me, but for my dog, he's like not loving it. A whole bunch of those horned-toed lizards and a
Mm-hmm.
massive pop of them. I just new babies all the time. Each year it's like there's more and more and more. But the amount of me actually having to service, maintenance, check on worms has diminished each year because of this population overtake. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Now, this is also the first year I didn't see any praying mantis, so I bet they probably got ate too in the
Mm,
process.
yeah, possible. Definitely possible.
But very
Especially when they're
nice.
hatching out of them cocoon egg sac things.
Oh yeah, and they're so tiny
Small
then.
enough for them lizards to nab right up. Real tender too, I imagine. So.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty interesting. I'll be rolling the dice on both of those. I'll also be stepping back into something I tried this year just on a fluke, which is simply knowing like a grid. I'll take a string and some stakes, and I'll just kind of quadrant off what I'm gonna do. I'll just take the
Mm-hmm.
seeds and I'll just throw it in that
Mm-hmm.
section, and
Mm-hmm.
just very laissez-faire. I'll walk away and have all these different quadrants of things, and it worked out great. I tried it with arugula, thinking like it's not going to take through all these wood chips. Oh man, I had
Mm-hmm.
more of an arugula problem than I had actual thought of what wasn't going to happen. So,
Right. That's funny. Yep. Yep. Seed bed prep. I would always kind of advocate for scraping the thickest layer of that mulch back, but some of these seeds just don't care. They're going to grow. If they can find any spot of moisture in that wood chip, that's all they need.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So definitely be rolling that. I got the tanks going for Jadam, and I already just basically had a small container going. I just took some of the concentrate, put it in one, some of the concentrate, put it in another, and I've just been adding to, and I'll be running that and just keeping it very minimal in overall cost on my end. Obviously paying for water here and there, but hopefully the rain buckets will be beneficial this year. I haven't really set them up until now, so I had like small runoffs that were like makeshift direction, try to capture as much as I could type of
Hmm.
scenario before. But yeah, hopefully this year will be the idea would be zero cost gardening,
Yeah, that'd be
but
nice, right?
but
Total zero. That'd be great.
yeah,
Uh, if you had chickens and a really good composting operation, that'd be pretty easy to do. Rainwater, chickens, and compost grows great plants.
yeah, that'll have to be the next venture because where I live now, I could probably get away with it for a little bit, but yeah, it's not allowed to have chickens where I'm at.
Mm,
At least to
HOA.
last time I looked, yeah, the HOA for sure. But I was trying to think about the city. I think the city in this specific spot that I'm zoned is not allowed to have livestock like that. So not only it's kind of a
You can
double
always call
whammy.
around to like chicken farms and just say, "Hey, let me come clean out, one of your chicken houses," and then you just make sure that you load the most driest, aged looking stuff into the back of your pickup truck with buckets, and you're good to go.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done that plenty of times. Goat, any livestock farms, that's I'm always at those, filling up my tanks with their
There's a
manure.
whole
So,
bunch around here too. I might have to look into that. That could be a pretty good idea and option going on there. So, yeah, no, I mean the same thing. Like get all my wood chips for free just because like I have
yep.
a established relationship with a tree trimmer, and I know that he only does untreated land, and
Hmm.
so I just hit him up and
That's
say, hey,
important.
if you got to load the dump, bring it on over, and it'll just randomly be there one day.
Yep.
Don't always get the heads up. I'll just drive up and I'm like, okay, well, I can't pull my truck in, so I'll have to shovel all this first.
Hmm. I've been there before too. Yep.
But
Yep.
fun times. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, okay, all right. Well, you know, we can kind of jump past the game. I had a game plan, but I think it'll be fine. One thing, obviously, we've kind of touched on throughout this whole entire time, nuggets of knowledge throughout here. But if there's something that specifically stands out or you wanted to speak to, this is a great opportunity for that. Otherwise, if you don't, then we can just jump over to the hot seat nomination.
I just want to touch back on the, putting your zone on a pedestal thing. I really want new growers to understand that yes, it's something you have to consider, but only in the way of your approach to providing these plants with what they actually want. And there is a set range of conditions that they actually want that, if provided, they're going to grow really quick and you're going to get a lot of peppers out of them. So just learn these fundamentals and try, no matter where and what zone you live in, try to time it and try to provide them in those zones, regardless of, your misconceptions about what that entails for you and your growing experience. Because, like I said, we got a lot of growers, in Canada and above that are just killing it. So it's definitely doable. And as long as you focus on those fundamentals, you're going to do fine.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the hot seat nomination, this is something you're very familiar with. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
I mean, I think I mentioned him before along with Brian, but I think you need, well, Brian and Brian, but Brian Hamilton. Brian Hamilton is one of these growers. I think he's in Connecticut now, but, you know, he's just killing it, man. I think last year his plants looked better than mine. It's just he's killing it and he gets it, and he's got that passion to learn more, and when he sees that something works well, he really, really hammers those fundamentals down, and he is living proof that it doesn't really matter if you have a short seasonal window. If you're timing it right and you're providing those indoor conditions for that 4 to 6 weeks before your plant out date, just wait until your plant out date is 65 in the lows for the air temps outside. And if you're planting in containers, even better, because that root zone is going to stay up near that 65 mark a lot easier. But this guy, Brian Hamilton, Grievous Brothers Peppers, I think is his seed page on Facebook, but he's killing it. So you gotta try to get him on, and just he could probably lend a lot of information for growers in the north that have always been under the assumption that they can't get giant pepper plants in those zones. And I think he's going to be an inspiration for those growers. So
Absolutely. Brian Hamilton, I'll be reaching out. We'll have a time to have you come on the podcast, discuss more about the growing. And of course, that's always a very beloved topic for the podcast. So can't wait to dive into that. So thank you for that nomination. And
yep.
now this last part here is, we've already kind of talked about the Pepper Guru group, but this is, where can everyone find you? How can they find you? All the other places. And any kind of announcements that you want to make. This is a great opportunity for that.
Working on the Columbia report. Went and visited with my friend Alan Rockefeller and his group in Columbia doing a mushroom foray. I learned a lot about DNA barcoding and a lot more I want to know more about. So this edit will, focus on a lot of that and what that means for the pepper community and capsicum in general. Maybe some of these, you know, maybe some of this data can help people understand how to do DNA barcoding from home as a citizen scientist. So that's coming up. Peru trip in September with the wife. Going to be some wilds that I'm going to try to get a second chance finding, and some newer things that I haven't been able to look for. And of course, always looking for the market peppers and the farm peppers and the land races. So big plans, just broke currently, so moving slowly.
Definitely makes sense. I mean, the house purchase will definitely do that to you and all the other great things that have to be ramped up all at the same time. So, Rich, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the
Thank you,
podcast.
dude.
there's still so much more we can dive into. And yes, the mushroom avenue is very fascinating to me, and one that I don't really talk about too much on here outside of like the mycelium network and how that whole fits. But mushrooms are very interesting, very unique, have a lot to tell us as a society, as humans, as all of these
Yeah.
different layers to it. Might have to have a further conversation on that because that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Anytime, man. Thank you for having me.
Rich, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you would like to keep up with the Pepper Guru, I'll have the direct links to the website as well as all the socials down below so you can keep up with everything that he has going on, as well as new episodes are dropping every Tuesday. You might find a periodic Thursday in there. New reviews will start flowing out here as well as some backlogged ones on Scorching and Swearing. So you'll start to see that pick up and roll out here soon, as well as the website will be dropping very, very soon. So looking forward to unveiling at least the first version of the website, as I have a few other larger lifts in order to help bring more value to every single one of you. Hopefully there is something for everyone in there. And want to say we have sponsorship opportunities available right now. So if you're looking to sponsor the podcast, if you would like to have a featured segment with inside the podcast or in any different other capacity, please reach out on theswearword.net or reach out on socials and we'll get that conversation started there. Want to give a quick shout out for our current sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, spark your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you had an online site, maybe you had a guy at one point, maybe you lost contact with him, maybe you just never got around to building a website. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. Best of all, they get you looking great online while you get to do what you do best. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.